Statistics say that 25% of your ministry will be seen, where the other 75% won't be seen. So for my senior project, I decided to give you a small glimpse of what that 25% would have looked like for me. Hello, my name is Brian Scherner, and for my senior project, I dove into the field of Christian ministry. But before I dive into that, let me tell you a little bit about me. So I've always knew God. Here I am. I'm the kid with the yarmulke right there. We're in the Passover play at my church, and I always knew God, and I was passionate about it, but I never had a desire to grow in a relationship with Him. And that changed for me July 24th, 2014. And although it was hard, and I went through a lot of things and a lot of struggles, I'm glad to be where I'm at right now. And I love soccer, and I love to be with kids. I love to just impact other people's lives in any way I can. So that's what led me to this project. And so what I pursued was Rev Kids, which is the children's ministry at my church, and we're focused on loving Jesus and growing kids. And so most of the time when you pour into the kids' lives, you can't just put Jesus just down their throats. So you can't do that with anyone as it is. So you have to just love them in general, and that will help to grow them into better people. And so I knew I couldn't do this alone, so I had my facilitator, Micah Fawcett, here to come and help me. He is the assistant pastor at Greater Heights Baptist Church, and him and I have been friends for a very long time now, so it was really easy to work with him and get along with him. And what we would do is meet up, and we would grow in just discipleship and just grow closer to God. So I would go through a devotional with him, and I would just reflect with him and talk more about ministry and learn a lot more from him. So he's a really good expert in youth ministry, and that's what led me to my research paper. I wanted to know how has youth ministry impacted America besides religion, okay? So what I did, I found this quote, and it shows that the peer pressure of youth ministry is positive, and that it changes people's lives, not just in a religious sense, but in a moral sense, and it guides people to, of all kinds of backgrounds, to just love and growing together. And I see that in my soccer team, so I wanted to include that, and I see that in my own life as well, that I'm positively peer pressured to make the right choices and to act the right way among my friends. So it's good to see. So for my product, what I did was I made small group plans, and it's actually a quote from my youth pastor at my church, that you can't really make a formula for ministry, but I tried my best to make plans to help the kids to learn more and to be more engaged in church. I also made personal reflections, which is just me reflecting off what I did in my youth ministry and what I also did in just my ministry experiences beside things with kids, which I'll get to later because I had plenty of those. I also made a video of my process, which was about 5 minutes long, and it was just a self-reflection video, and sadly I can't play that, but I will play clips. So in my small group planning, just to go into it a little bit in detail, what I would do is I would go through the plans the church would provide me first, and I'd analyze it, figure out what I want to tell the kids, what I can sort of work on, what would be better to tell them, and what else I should include in there from my personal life or from the Bible itself, so that I can communicate better to them, just to give them a better picture and understanding of what they're dealing with. And then we would go to church and actual serving. So this is me serving. That's my friend Xander right there. He's in my small group. He's the 5th grader. And right now we're just going in a house. And what we usually do, we start with an activity that guides the kids to know just a little bit about what's going on in the message today, which I think is really awesome. It engages the kids more. And this is worship. The kids get to see how awful I am at dancing and singing, but I love doing it, and I love engaging the kids and just making them happy through this. And this is just a great way to just, praise Jesus. So I love doing it. Then we go into the large group lessons. And this is just a time for the kids to just quiet down, get the gospel or whatever message that they need to just communicate to them in a kid-friendly kind of way. And I think the team does great with this, and sometimes the audience is connected, and I got to make sure if a kid asks me a question during this time, I'm able to answer. And then the small group, which is the most important part. I'm a small group leader for 4th and 5th grade guys, but sometimes it changes depending on how busy the circumstances may be, or how many people we may have. And I feel like this is the most important part of the process, because it's what personally impacts the kids' lives and helps you build relationships with them and brings them back to the church. And then after this, I would personally reflect on what would happen in the small groups, what would happen in my own personal life, and what would happen like in my devotional time. I'd also personally reflect on what may happen in ministry in general. So why I chose this product. Honestly, deep down, it's for my love of God. Like, God has positively impacted my life and changed my life to go in this crazy direction that I can't believe that I'm standing right up here right now talking to you all about this. And I chose this specifically focused on youth ministry because when I was a fifth grader, I knew God, but I didn't know him personally, and I want that for kids where I didn't have that. And so when I see a kid looking at me like this, so like deeply engaged, I know that like he's listening, and I know that this is what I was called to do. I love kids and I love Jesus, so that's pretty much the overall reason. And I did learn a lot on this. I learned that kids are kind of difficult to deal with. That's the challenge, but it's awesome. As much as you learn from them, they learn a lot from you too. And I also got to learn more about just the truths that God provides and the messages that you can learn just from other people interacting with you in your life. I also learned patience skills. I learned a lot of things specifically like in ministry and how to rely on God for the majority of the things in your life. And of course, with everything, like as a Christian, you get a lot of challenges that you have to deal with when you commit yourself to this walk. And one of them was kind of spontaneous. It was one moment that I like to share, but I got to meet a homeless woman. Her name was Kayla, and I got to lead her to Christ, and I did not see this happening. This was in Jacksonville, probably in around January, and she was struggling with schizophrenia and divorce, and she was not knowing like where what direction she was going to be led in her life. And I pointed her back to like love, and I showed her hope in that moment. And it only took 10 minutes, a 10-minute conversation. So that's something I reflect on in my personal journals, and I have plenty of testimonies like that I love to share with you guys after too. And also another challenge is the fact that, you know, as a Christian, you're put to a higher standard, and people look at you, and you have to set an example among your peers and among a bunch of people in your life. So that's one personal challenge I have to deal with. And then another thing is kids, you know, difficult to deal with, but you gotta love it. And another thing is like sometimes you feel drained in life. I know everybody gets this, is that like you just feel drained and you can't pour into people as much as you would want to, but that's the thing, is that there's always a way to overcome that with God, that he'll pour back into you and give you that fulfillment that you need. And so I was able to learn that and overcome that challenge. And another challenge is just making plans with people. It's kind of difficult to do. My life, I have a busy schedule, but I was able to work things out, thankfully, for that. And so in conclusion, I'm gonna go beyond these walls of Camp Georgia and beyond the walls of just any boundary in general, and I'm gonna keep growing my ministry. I know that God has a plan for me in any aspect I pursue, whether it be in the field of psychology, through being a counselor, or just going into ministry in general. I know that God has a plan for me with that, and I know he has a plan for me at Barry, which is where I'll be attending, and I'll be a part of the program right there. I'm at an interview for a Windshape program. It's called, it's a Christian leadership program, and I'll be able to grow there at Barry, and so I think that's gonna be just an awesome experience, and I'm looking forward to wherever God's gonna lead me with that. So, I know that this is only a small fraction of that 25%, but I'm glad that I was able to deliver that to you, and I hope that one day I'll be able to give you more of a testimony on my life and what I kind of experienced through this. And so, yeah, thank you for your time. Thank you, Ms. Jackson, for helping me through this. Is there any questions?